Tennessee 95, Northern Kentucky 56, an absolute rout. Um, this was the Nate Ament coming out party, right? Every freshman, I think, at this point has had their like 20 point per game moment. A few of them probably have had two at this point. This was one of the better performances, I think, just because Nate Ament is such an interesting player. 6'10", 200. People kind of want him to be a four, but I'm looking at this. I'm 2 of 4 from three, 9 and 10 from the free throw line. Three level guy. If he's a consistent three level guy, welcome to that AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, Michael Brown conversation. Like very, very quickly, if you're Nate Ament. And Tennessee also had 20 points from Jacoby Gillespie. This team can beat you in a bunch of different ways. What were some of your takeaways from the game?
Yeah, for Amit specifically, it wasn't just the um the scoring, which was great. He had 8 rebounds, 3 on the offensive end. He had 5 assists, which led the team. Uh, he had 2 steals. You clean up the 3 turnovers, but I mean, when you're that have a usage that high, it is what it is. Um, he is a guy who is starting to show that he can kind of do it all. And that was, again, the big concern I had coming into this season was like, is he the guy? I still don't know if he's quite there, but I mean, this was a good showing to show that like he is a player who you can trust to have the ball in his hands at any point in a basketball game.
hmm
And he'll at least know what to do to generate a good look or know what to do to find an open guy. Um, but you mentioned Gillespie. Gillespie had an unbelievable plus minus in this game. Um, he he did play the most minutes, but like plus 28 in those 27 minutes. JP Estrella also had like plus 29. He had a double double, 17 points, 11 rebounds. Um, like you said, they have guys that can do it all, or not. They have a lot of guys who can do different things that kind of come together where you've got two you had 2 players with double digit rebounds. You had multiple players with four or more assists. Um, they shot over 40% from three in this game. Like it's coming together well. We're gonna need to see it against a like the top competition, but 37 points off the bench. They had 42 of their 95 points in the paint. They were generating points off of turnovers. They got out in transition. It's something you like to see where a team that can be as inconsistent as Tennessee offensively historically gets out there and scores almost 1.5 points per possession, which is
Yeah. I mean, I
great.
think I think it's one of those things where like if you combine the two, right? It's like, okay, this is the Rick Barnes team. And I do think I want to present like one caution on it. I guess you could say Nate Ament is a freshman. I think him and Gillespie are obviously the two most important guys on this roster. And there are a bunch of different ways you can score. You're probably gonna get bad Ament performance. This freshman class is weird. Like I don't want to speak about them like as normal freshman classes where it's just like the 18-year-old's gonna 18-year-old at some point because he just might be like they might not do that. Like you know what I mean? Like as a group, I think if you look at like the top 10 best freshmen, I think they've had like one or two bad performances as a collective, you know? And one of those was Cam Boozer, which was like just there's no way he plays that bad again. So I don't know. I don't want to talk about them regularly, but like if you speak typically about freshmen in March, it's like they're good for one bad one. I don't know that it matters with this Tennessee team, but I feel like they have a different roster that's going to kind of like take them over that hump that Rick Barnes has had, that block he's had, I guess you could say, throughout his career. Um, the only thing not the only thing, but like they also dominated the glass. I mean, they had two dudes with 11 rebounds, and Nate Ament filled it in with 8 himself. Um, they barely turned the ball over. I think you can live with 12 turnovers. I mean, it is double digits, but I think you can live with that.
I mean, 12 turnovers in a college basketball game is like average.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
especially, and you said if freshman against a freshman, like Ament had three of those 12.
Yeah.
Um, if that's his freshman against a freshman, and like everything else is everything else he did, you can live with the 2 to 3 turnovers in a game where he otherwise dominates.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I that didn't concern me. Winning the boards by 22 when you've seen teams like I know TKR wasn't there, but teams like Purdue uh, lose on the glass to a team like Oakland.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
I think just this was a game where you liked to see Tennessee come in there and just impose their will
Yeah.
from tip to finish, just impose their will, um, and not really have a bad performance. Like I don't think you could point to any player on this team in this game and say they had a bad performance. Maybe from like a raw counting stat
Perspective.
perspective, right? Like Cade Phillips and Bishop Boswell combined for only 11 points,
Yeah.
but they also only shot 4 of 6. Like it wasn't like it was an inefficient 11 points. It was just they didn't need to take shots because Nate Ament and Jacoby Gillespie were going off.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I know people don't want to hear this because like sports fans just want to focus on like the wins and losses. They don't care about the spread, so on and so forth. I do think that stuff matters. Like I really, really, really do. I think if you are a Purdue team that struggled against Oakland, that shows like tendencies, right? That's how you create bad habits, so on and so forth. Like I think when you come out and you just pummel teams the way you're supposed to, you cover the spread, that is the dominating factors that like carries over in other games. Even if you won, like even if you're a Purdue fan, it's like, hey, we got out, like that's a big deal. Being 2-0, like there's nothing wrong with that. But those players don't look at that like a win, right? Like there's weaknesses shown, there are tendencies shown, there's bad habits that were shown. Like you mentioned, the rebounding. Those are stuff that carries over, whether you want to believe it or not. Like I think the only player I've ever seen flip a switch in my lifetime is LeBron James. The reason I say he's better than Jordan is because like the Cavs would be bad. The Cavs would not care about the regular season, and then he'd be like, okay, it's the playoffs. Like next thing you know, they're in the finals against the Warriors. And you could say the Warriors like mini flipped a switch, but I mean that, the Warriors were winning 73, 60 games like constantly. So it wasn't the same level of switch flip that LeBron had. And I just don't think teams can really do that. If you're a team that turns the ball over, doesn't rebound, um, I look at Arkansas against Michigan State yesterday, and obviously it's an Arkansas Michigan State recap, but like you lost a game because your freshman went one-on-one the final 2.5 minutes. That's going to happen again. You're going to get out rebounded again if you're Purdue, or you're going to, excuse me, struggle on the glass against an Oakland team if you're Purdue, right? Like if you're a bad defensive team, that's going to happen again. It's like I said about Duke, like they beat Texas by 15, and that was their bad performance. Like that stuff matters at the end of the day. And I think Tennessee has come out in all their games and been like, okay, well, all their games they've played twice, but they've come out and said, hey, here's who we are and we're going to get better each time. The Mercer game, they only won by 15, 27.5 point favorites this time. 27.5 point favorites and still will win by 39. So I just feel like this team gets it. They have an identity. They know who their guys are. The ball gets to the spots it's supposed to go. And ultimately, I think teams that know who they are the best teams in any sport.
And I think one thing that, and this might be a little bit deep into the rotation, but one thing I've noticed in both of Tennessee's games is that when you have a guy who's kind of coming off the bench a little bit deeper in Ethan Berg, who can be a legitimate high major ball handler for a
Mhm.
team, that doesn't need to score, although he scored 8 points in this game, but is just he had 5 assists against Mercer off the bench. He had 3 against Northern Kentucky off the bench. In this game, he shot 2 of 2 from three, scored 8 points. Um, like just having dudes like that come off the bench, um, and not have to be like, the flame throwing, like we're gonna pull you off the bench so that you can score some points in short stints, but like legitimately be okay, I can come in and replace Jacoby Gillespie as the point guard on this team.
Mhm.
right? Like having that, it just does wonders for this Tennessee team because I don't really think they had that behind Zakai Ziegler last
No,
year.
I think that kind of showed in the games because Ziegler missed games at times too, and I think
Yeah,
that kind of showed in the games Ziegler missed
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
I think that's a great point. They have a very different looking roster than they had in the past, and that is, I mean, I think that was a crazy statement by me. I don't think Zakai Ziegler missed that many games actually. We're gonna chalk that one up as a bad statement. I'm a hand up. I don't think Zakai Ziegler missed that many games. I'm not even gonna check. But I do think overall this is a different roster than Rick Barnes has ever had. And overall, like that's what you're looking for. You're looking for different rosters when things don't work. And I think that's what's so interesting about this NIL landscaper in. I think you see it with all like kind of like the veteran coaches besides Calipari. Cal's gonna Cal no matter what he does. But whether it's Rick Barnes, Tom Izzo, even Matt Painter spoken about like stretch fours being like next after TKR. I think Gonzaga looks a lot different under Mark Few this year than in some previous years. I think there's all these like veteran coaches are finding different ways to find success within a landscape that like maybe they weren't necessarily expecting. And that's really impressive. Rick Barnes is no different than any of them as well.
No, I definitely think that in a world where some of the top teams have yet to impress, the fact that Tennessee's really left no doubt is a very good sign.
Very, very good sign. And ultimately, like Tennessee is going to be one of the best teams in the SEC, one of the best teams in the country, which means we're going to have previews and recaps up on the channel all year for Tennessee. For Connor, I'm Dion. Like, comment, subscribe.